recording. Okay, everybody. Hi. Welcome to Spiritual Practices of the Jedi Daily Regimens for Joy, presented by me, IJF Apprentice Bhalu. You can call me Bhalu or you can call me Connor. My Zoom name shows both, and that's perfectly acceptable. Please also enjoy the memes that are scattered throughout this presentation. I am not currently looking at the chat, but I will reference the chat multiple times during the presentation. Feel free, if somebody wants to interrupt me, if something is pertinent in the chat that I need to know right away, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll be doing my spiel. So
Connor, do
let's
you
get
want me to
started.
let you know if somebody says something that you want to know about?
Yes, exactly. That would be great. Feel
Okay.
free to, Master Ross, you can interrupt me whenever you'd like.
Okay.
Okay, so hello. I'm Apprentice Bhalu. I just wanted to very briefly introduce myself so you know who you are learning from today. I started in the Jedi community in 2004. I originally was part of the Yahoo groups and was sort of a lurker on Force Academy, but never really participated in anything back then. Eventually, I started training at the Institute for Jedi Realist Studies, which was headed up by Jax Meyer, who I just saw joined the IJF chat in Discord yesterday, which is pretty cool. And I was at Force Academy for a while, and then at Temple of the Jedi Order. I was knighted at Temple of the Jedi Order from 2014 through 2017. And then I studied in the shadow aspect under Raven at Force Academy from 2017 through earlier this year. And currently, I am working towards the IJF knighthood, and I am studying with current knight Diamond Shank, also known to me as Crystal. So, one of the things I wanted to talk about a bit was why am I giving this particular presentation? Why am I interested in spiritual practices? And I think a lot of it comes from the disconnect that I observed in my own life and the lives of Jedi in the fiction. And unlike Ali, am actually a pretty big fan of Star Wars, even though in my 30s I've been less interested in the new media and have mostly been sticking with what I learned in my teens and 20s. So if I'm a little bit outdated on my lore, just kind of go with me. But I saw a group of monastics in the fiction. You have Jedi that train from a very small age to learn spiritual practices, basically sequestered from regular life. And of course, none of us, not a single IJF Jedi, student, knight, or master, is a true monastic. We all live in the world, with the world, for the world, by the world, as the world. And I realized at some point along the way that we may be taking lessons from the fiction in that context. And perhaps what we should be doing is reinterpreting the context based on the work that real Jedi and real spiritual practitioners in the real world have been working on for the past 50, 100,000 years. I have most recently been studying the work of Byron Katie, Martha Beck, an Indian yogi named Sadhguru, and of course I've been studying with Diamond. And this presentation is given as partial fulfillment of the apprentice program at IJF. Okay, what will this presentation help you with? So, about 3 or 4 months ago, I began a thread in our Discord. I wanted to ask about what did Jedi do every day as part of their Jedi life. So I called the thread Jedi Rituals, and I got some really interesting responses to that like informal survey. What I learned was that many people were just trying to fit little bits here and there in. Like, for example, maybe they would do a couple minutes of meditation a few times a day if they thought about it, like if it became top of mind. And I realized that what we really had here was a disorientation. We weren't oriented with all of our behaviors in a singular line. Instead, we were sort of chaotically throwing various spiritual practices in without any sense of why we should do that, or how our spiritual lives can enhance all of the other aspects of our lives, and how all of these other aspects, the physical, mental, and spiritual bodies, are really in alignment that is joined by what I'm calling a mission statement. And we'll talk about that. So I want you to be thinking about, as we go through this presentation, what is spiritual about your life and what isn't spiritual about your life? Where is the disconnect happening for you? What we're going to do is we're going to identify multiple areas that we can bring our physical, mental, and spiritual bodies into alignment, and we're going to categorize them into what I'm calling the 5 pathways to practice for the Jedi realist. And we're going to show how each of these pathways relates to the Jedi compass, and how when these pathways are aligned in singular purpose, your life will orient around your growth, even when you are, quote unquote, busy. So what will you have learned by the end of this 80 to 90 minutes or so? You'll learn how to identify your mission statement for your life, even if the actual mission remains to be discovered. You do not have to figure out your entire life in the next hour and a half. I think that would be rude of me to expect that from you. But you will understand how to identify various areas in your life that can be oriented around this mission and purpose. You'll have a full toolkit for spiritual enrichment, including example practices for each of the 5 pathways. And you'll be introduced to the 100-day daily practices challenge that I'm going to host in our community space, which will provide peer support in developing your toolkit from idea to practice over 3 months of easy check-ins. Because I really believe that consistency is the most powerful tool that we can wield as people that are trying to develop ourselves through a life of spiritual exploration. Okay, so this is really where the presentation begins in earnest. The noisy world that disorients you. So, like I said earlier, we tend to start as people. We tend to start as people first and Jedi second. And there is literally nothing wrong with that. In fact, I think it would be a little bit odd if any of us would think of ourselves as Jedi over people necessarily, because none of us started as Jedi. We all definitely started as integrated with the Force, but Jedi is a particular path that we choose to follow. So before we chose anything, we were people first. And Jedi became something extra that we inserted into our life alongside of our personhood. And what I wanted to think about in terms of this is what brought us to becoming Jedi in the first place? Why did we make that choice? So most people find Jedi realism through a sense of lack in their lives, something that is missing or they think is missing from their reality. And I wrote in the presentation that this is a gift, and really it is, because lack is something that signals to us. It is a siren that is going off in our minds that shows us an area that we can grow in and something that we can add. I want to know, and you can write in the chat, and I will be looking at this, and I will also I'll let people speak on the mic if they'd like, to talk about what do you feel you lacked that led you to the Jedi path. So let me just see. I've got the chat up here now, so I can be reading that. But if anybody wants to... Oh, okay, great. Thank you, Allie, for starting us off. Spiritual discernment. Could you give me like a less than 1 minute elaboration on that?
Are you saying that because I'm Jedi or because I'm Allie?
No, I'm saying that because I know you're verbose, and I have a lot to talk about.
No, you're good. So, I had said it earlier that you weren't here when I said it, but I got into the community because I was trying to figure out whether or not I should remain pagan or go to Christianity.
Right. Okay.
And it was following, as you know, because you know the story.
Yes, I do.
It
Yeah.
was following a significant spiritual event. So,
Okay, great.
yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. Anybody else want to share what lacked in your life? Okay, thank you, Master Ross. Connection, friendship, and additional path of warriorship. Oh, that's fantastic. All of those are really, really important. And we're actually going to talk about that. One of the pathways is community. Relia, hi! Oh my God, I didn't know you were here. Okay. I was beginning to question the religion of my childhood and therefore lacking a sense of community that goes with it by leaving. I wanted to be around like-minded people and to grow as a person. Perfect. Aether, I definitely lacked the courage to differentiate between what shadows were my own or imposed upon me. Becoming a Jedi and following the path, doing shadow work has opened me up to a fuller range of emotions and conscious choices. That's fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. Erta, I think I lacked a program that pulls everything together. Yep, an orientation. Yeah, that's excellent. Thankfully, we do have one of those here. We also have the compass. I don't really have a religion, though I was already into aspects of meditation. That's great. It's fabulous. Alrighty. Justin, what led me on a spiritual path tied into the Jedi path was a sense of lack of understanding who I am and why I'm... Yes, so self-knowledge, definitely Dan, personal growth, community service, and lightsabers are cool. Yes, I definitely lacked lightsabers before joining the Jedi. Absolutely. And Darcy, mostly just felt I lacked direction. Yeah. On a break year from college, working dead end, and on the tail end of a relationship, I had nothing going on for me, so I needed to do something before I lost everything. Yes. Okay. Perfect. Thank you all so much. That is fantastic. That is fantastic. Okay. So, as you can see, many people had lack coming into this world of Jedi realism. In fact, I would go so far as to say that nobody joined the Jedi because they were already perfectly oriented in their lives. And, you know, if you are that person, please get in touch with me because I want to know everything about you. All right, let's move on. So, examples of the noisy world. Jedi on Earth have a lot going on that Jedi in the fiction never dealt with. And then I wrote, yay, childhood kidnapping. Because in the fiction, of course, Jedi were, at least once the Order was founded, taken from their homes when they were identified as Force sensitive in order to begin their training at a young enough age that they didn't have to deal with the problems that I'm about to talk about. We have jobs, school, children, parents, families, social media, social pressures, the lack of tools to deal with that noise. We have goals and aspirations, which I know is terrible. If only we didn't have goals and aspirations. I'm pretty sure Yoda said something about this. And more. So, you know, we are dealing with something that these Jedi in the fiction only struggled with after they had started their training. And because of this, they were able to see their blind spots much more clearly than those of us who may have been ensconced in our, I would say, automatic behaviors that we are not privy to having total control over just because we're not always aware that they're there in the first place. All of these issues lead to feeling like Jedi practice is a chore, something that has to be accomplished on top of your daily obligations. And this can make spirituality feel particularly surface level and ineffective. Have you ever been having a rough day and maybe, for instance, it's the holidays and I'm just thinking about some of my friends who have texted me. They've been going to holiday parties with families and, they send me concerning texts about family members and tough topics that cause, internal distress with them. And, I could say, hey, maybe you should sit down and take a few deep breaths and do some meditation. But that act alone is minimally effective. Yes, it does help. If you want to activate your parasympathetic nervous system and bring your internal, heartbeat down, your blood pressure down, focus your mind, those things are helpful. But they don't actually solve the root problem. They are really taking care of symptoms, right? They are taking care of what we see in front of us rather than what's underneath all of that. So what stops our spiritual practices from becoming deep and integrated? And of course, I've already talked about how the Jedi in the fiction did this differently. Sequestered during initial education, they were unencumbered from worldly responsibilities. They were only focused on one thing, their training. And of course, we have examples of this in our world. We have Christian and Buddhist monks. We have yogis that are living in a forest off of worms and berries. And really their biggest problem is, am I going to eat? And if they don't have food, then they're like, cool, whatever. And they fast for 40 days or something crazy. And so what can we learn from this? What can we learn from the fictional Jedi and the real life monastics? Well, they had a singular purpose. They were looking for unity. They were bringing their body, mind, relationships, and spirit all together into the Force. And they had a cultivated purpose. They had the Jedi codes and the creeds that we have adopted, and also we have the compass in our Jedi lives. And they measured all of their behaviors against these core values. So what can we take away from this? We can develop personal mission statements that are supported by our code, creed, and compass. We can identify core values that stem out from these statements. We can measure our activities in body, mind, relationships, spirit, and unity with the Force against these core values. And then we can align everything in our lives piece by piece until we're in total unity. So this is really important, because what I'm suggesting here is that when we start taking our spiritual practices not as something to do on top of our lives, like, oh my gosh, I have to do 8 hours of work and then meditate for an hour after that. That sounds totally intimidating, right? Because we have so much to do all day, every day. However, imagine this reality where every action that we take throughout the day is based in spirituality that comes out of our core values, that comes out of our codes, creeds, and compass, and all of these things are in alignment. Then suddenly, it's not that we're meditating for an hour extra every day. It's that we get to the end of our workday and we find that not only have we been mindful for the past 8 hours or so, if we're being perfect, but then we want to spend the rest of the day being mindful and present as well. That reality feels far less antagonistic. It feels more friendly and it feels more inviting. And so how does this relate to the compass? Of course, I'm going to talk more about these as we go through, but I wanted to just have it all listed out for you as we move into step 1. We relate all of this back to the Force, of course, the ineffable. Everything in reality is the Force, at least in my view. Of course, we all have our own views of it. But this means that if we want to find true unity, we've got to start exploring what the Force is to each of us. We have to have loyalty to the code, because this is probably where a lot of us are going to find that we have our core values. If one of the statements of the Skywalker Code is respect life in all its forms, then of course that's going to come up with a core value for you. Maybe that influences what you think about capital punishment. Maybe it influences how you treat the homeless. Maybe it influences how you see your friend who is being mean to you and rude to you. So all of these things change our behaviors. Of course, we have duty to all through our purpose. We must, of course, then develop interior self-awareness so that we can accurately create the behaviors that we want to create. We have to take responsibility for these core values and not just pay them lip service. We have to actually do the things that we say we're going to do. We have to have self-discipline in order to follow through on our initiation of the actions. And then, of course, our various arts, our defense arts, our spiritual arts, all of these arts that we learn in our Jedi program help. They should be filtered through our core values that are filtered through the compass and the codes and the creeds. And all of that is filtered through the Force. So we're creating this very streamlined, economic, one-track existence. And it's not, and I think I'm going to elaborate on this a bit later, but just in case I forget to do it later, what we're doing here is we're not reducing. We're not making things quote unquote simple in that we're removing things that matter. What we're really doing is burning away the extraneous and starting from the foundations. What really matters to us, and how can we take the behaviors that we care about and build upon them to create a full life? So the first thing we have to do is we have to identify our mission. The entire point of life is to be silly, kind, and really weird, BTW. So true, bestie. Okay. Why do you need a why? Why? What's in a why? Well, practices are useless without an orientation. That's why we have the Jedi compass in the first place. It helps identify what keeps us integrated and what is superfluous or distracting. So what we're going to do now is we are going to also, this video image is really making me laugh. It's so like insane. But yeah, we're going to look at some Shakti, which is a guided meditation by Sadhguru, one of my teachers, for success. And what this is going to do, I'm calling it a guided purpose meditation. But essentially what this meditation is going to ask you to do over the next 10 to 15 minutes is to imagine a world that is in line kind of with what you want. It's basically asking you to paint your ideal. Joseph Campbell said, follow your bliss. So did Alan Watts. All of these teachers that we reference in our collective consciousness and spiritual education, we often talk about, visualizing what would your life be like if you didn't have to make money, or what would you be doing? This meditation sort of addresses that, but it'll give you a chance to maybe glimpse what you think your mission statement might be. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to play this video inside this window, and I am manifesting that it will work perfectly. But I want to do just a little bit of a sound test for this because I'm not sure that I'm sharing. I think I need to make sure that I'm sharing the audio of the computer as well.
I'll let you know if we hear you.
Yeah. Okay. Let's try this. Let me know.
Audio is
wait.
good.
Oh, can you actually hear that? Because it's playing through my speakers. Which
I can hear. We can hear it.
Let me turn
We
this.
can hear it. Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear it now?
No.
Yeah, it's playing through my speakers, but let me turn it up and see if that works.
So there should be a way for you to go in and just hit, there's a button that says share audio.
Yeah, I thought about that. Let me just stop the share real quick. Stop the share. Okay. Let's see.
Also, while he's doing that, if you need meditation credits, I didn't realize that you were doing a meditation. This can count towards it. You just got to make sure that you let me know that you actually did it.
Okay, I'm sharing sound now. Let's try this again.
We have good audio.
Chit Shakti.
You got it? Great.
Be the maker of your own
I'll
destiny.
meet you at the end.
As humans, all that we have created is just a manifestation of our minds. So the most important part of creating what you want is to first manifest it within the mindscape. What is powerfully established in the mindscape is bound to find manifestation in actuality. Chit Shakti meditations are tools to create what you desire in the mindscape and in turn in reality, a way of creating and manifesting what you really care for in your life. May you know the power of being the master of your own destiny. Keep your hands and legs uncrossed. Place your hands upon your thighs, facing upward, loosely placed. Close your eyes, sit comfortably. Take a deep breath, and as you exhale, relax into it. Take another deep breath, and as you exhale, relax even more into it. Take one more deep breath. This time, the relaxation should be total. Now, tense your feet alone. Tense, tense, tense. Relax. Now tense your calf muscles only, above your ankle, below the knee. Tense, tense, tense. Relax. Now tense your thigh muscles. Tense, tense, tense. Relax. Tense your hip and stomach muscles. Tense, tense, tense. Relax. Now tense the muscles on your chest, shoulders, and your back. Tense, tense, tense. Hold the tension. Relax. Tense both your arms. Tense, tense. Make a fist and create tension. Tense, tense. Relax. Tense your neck muscles. Tense, tense, tense. Relax. Tense the muscles on your face and the back of your head. Make a face and create tension. Tense, tense, tense. Relax. Take a deep breath, and as you exhale, relax. Feel relaxation spreading right through your body, from the top of your head down to your toes. See yourself climbing to the peak of a mountain. Feel the cold air. And as you climb, let your breath go in deep and rapid rasping gasps like breathe this way. Deep and fast, rasping breath, deep and fast. Continue to breathe, deep and fast. Now you have reached the top of the mountain. Your breath continues to rasp in rapid gasps. Standing upon the peak of a very tall mountain. Sit clearly. You are standing upon the peak of a very tall mountain. As you look down at the other smaller peaks, the valleys, and the dwellings of those who do not dare to climb, slowly your breath settles down to normal. Take a deep breath. Feel the sting of the cold mountain air within your nostrils. Continue to feel the special feeling of being upon the peak. See a small spot of bright light appear in your forehead. See a small spot of bright light. See it growing into a beam of light. This spot of light from your forehead is projecting itself into a sharp white beam of light. It is growing. It is about 10 centimeters outside your forehead. See it growing about a meter in length, 3 meters, 10 meters, 100 meters, 1,000 meters. See this beam of light, a bright white beam of light projecting from your forehead into the horizon. See a white, bright beam of light projecting beyond the horizon into the infinite. See a white, bright beam of light projecting beyond the horizon into the infinite. Now, set 3 goals that you desire to achieve. 1, a short-term goal, something that you wish to achieve in the next 2 to 3 months of time. A medium-term goal that you wish to achieve in the next 2 to 3 years of time. A long-term goal that you wish to accomplish in the next 10 to 15 years. First, set the short-term goal. See it clearly. Be specific about what is it that you wish to accomplish in the next 3 months. A specific goal that you wish to accomplish in the next 3 months. See what you really want. Hold it in your mind and see it being accomplished. Now, the medium-term goal. See what you wish to accomplish in the next 2 to 3 years' time. See what you wish to accomplish in the next 2 to 3 years of time. Be specific about what you wish to accomplish. See it clearly. That which you wish to accomplish in the next 2 to 3 years' time. A specific goal. See it clearly and see it being accomplished. See how it feels to have your goal accomplished. The joy of it, the power of it. Feel it. See your medium-term goal being accomplished. Now, a long-term goal that you wish to achieve in the next 10 to 15 years of time. See it clearly. Be specific about what is it that you wish to accomplish in the next 10 to 15 years of time. It is best that your long-term goal is a more inclusive process. It is best that your long-term goal includes everybody's well-being. See it clearly, a specific goal that you wish to achieve in the next 10 to 15 years' time. See it clearly, hold it in your mind. See it being accomplished. Feel the joy of accomplishing it, the power of fulfilling your goal, and the well-being that it spreads around you. See it clearly. See your long-term goal being accomplished. Feel the joy of it, the power of it, and the well-being that spreads around.
Okay. So one of the important things about this meditation is he made a big point to showcase that our goals should align with the well-being of all people. And if your long-term goal didn't initially match up with that, that's something to think about and something to maybe meditate on after this presentation or maybe tomorrow. I don't know. But that the first time that I sat in a Chit Shakti meditation, it really helped me see how much I didn't know what I wanted. So if you did this meditation and you are like, well, I wasn't really clear about what my short, medium, and long-term goals were during the meditation. I didn't have a lot of clarity. That's a lesson into itself. That can actually teach you quite a lot. Something to think about. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the next 15 minutes or so to go over what I've named the 5 pathways. And the 5 pathways are daily contemplation and reflection, sacred connection practice, community practice, orienteering practice, and sacred study. And so I will go through each of these in depth and provide tools for each of these. So the first big category, daily contemplation and reflection. Think about this. What does your day look like? What does a typical day for you look like? How often do you spend it being very present? What percentage of your day do you spend present in the moment? More than 50%? Less than 50%? What would the ideal day look like in terms of being present? And what does a typical harried day look like? So I'll give you an example in my life from each of these. So, I'm one of those creatures that really depends on rituals and habits. I like for my days to feel very similar. That's my brand of neurodivergence is just that the same things every day really make me comfortable. And that's especially important because I have a career where nothing is the same every day. I wake up, I look at my calendar, and I see what's happening that day, and it's always something completely different. So I need these rituals to keep me grounded. Well, during the holidays, all of that kind of goes away, and I'm left to vegetate in my bed in the morning. And I still do this. I mean, I'll still wake up at like 8:30, which for me is sleeping in. I'll still wake up at 8 or 8:30, and I will just sit there for a while, and I will be like, you know what? I don't really know if I want to start this day or not. And eventually the day will begin with or without me. And I feel like I'm behind the whole day. I feel like I've missed part of it. I'm definitely not acting in alignment with my goals. And sure, resting and recovering is a part of a full and balanced life. But at the same time, it's so important to realize that our rest needs to be conscious and present, not disengaging. There's no point in our lives where we need to feel like we are not here. A beautiful day, an ideal day looks like this. I'll get up in the morning. I will do my gratitude and journaling practice. That will lead me into a present and meditative state. I'll make my mindful breakfast and I'll get into the work day. And ideally, this doesn't always happen, but I'll get to the end of the day. I will unload all of the negative things that happened to me and happened within me. I'll journal about them. I'll talk them through with a friend. I will figure out what needs to be done and what I can let go. I will do my evening ritual and then I'll move on. And that's a beautiful example of what an ideal day could look like. Here's the toolkit. Intention setting. reviewing your core values, journaling about them, coming up with what are some ways that I can be here? What am I feeling? What am I missing? What's on my mind? Get them out of your head and into a book. Yeah. Julia Cameron has the morning pages. You can look up journaling prompts online. There are so many various options. There's also something called Examen, which is from the Ignatians, which are a monastic sect of Christians. They developed this process of, at the end of the day, going through what happened to you, what did you do, and how did it reflect the goodness of God? How did you showcase your love for God in that day? And if you didn't, why? Just asking that question. You don't even really need to answer it, but just asking that question is enough. Of course, journaling about gratitude, journaling about growth areas, all of these help with emotional balance and awareness of your consequences of the things that you've done in that day. Of course, breath work. We've already done some breath work today. We did more of the fast breath work, but you can do contemplative breath work. I would recommend some form of box breathing, which is where you count in a certain number, you hold for that number, you release for that number, and then you hold for that number, and you repeat that cycle in a box. If you need to calm your nervous system, making the exhale longer than the inhale helps ground you, helps bring you all of these biometrics like blood pressure and heart rate. This lowers them and brings you into more of a state of relaxation. Of course, certain types of restorative and contemplative yoga or prayer, and Byron Katie's The Work. If you don't know anything about Byron Katie's The Work, the very one sentence introduction to this is, there are 4 questions you can ask yourself about any of your beliefs. Is this belief true? Can you be 100% positive that your belief is true? How do you feel when you hold on to your belief? And how do you feel when you let go of your belief? These simple 4 questions can be a journaling prompt for any situation. And if you're curious about the work, definitely come see my presentation for the summer gathering, because I'm going to be giving hopefully, it depends on if my proposal is accepted, but hopefully I'll be giving a presentation on the work and how it can apply to the Jedi path. And of course, for each of these, I have hectic adaptations for busy Jedi. We've got 2-minute pauses. So if you are going through your day and you feel like I'm not being present, I'm not reflecting, I'm just kind of reacting, what you can do is you can do a 2-minute pause. You can just set your phone timer for 2 minutes, start some deep breathing, calm yourself, move through it. You can also do a 1-sentence journal. A 1-sentence journal is basically where at the beginning or the end of the day, you write 1 sentence about that day. So if you do it in the morning, maybe you do it about the previous day. But if you collect your 1 sentences throughout the year, if that's what keeps you accountable and that's what keeps you present, then you'll be thinking about those important things that you identified each day, and that brings you closer into the present moment. I always suggest people get one of those quotes or passage a day calendar books. Like I know that there's a daily Zen one from Ryan Holiday, or not daily Zen, daily Stoic calendar book, where you peel it off every day and it has a different saying that you can just think about throughout the day. It's a pretty low barrier to entry way to start bringing yourself into the present and contemplative moment. And 1 minute of deep breathing. So think about what other ideas, what are some other things that you can bring into practice? Either you can make it a deeper practice, or it can be something that is one of the hectic adaptations. And I don't know if anybody is talking about this in the chat, but But if you have anything you want to, oh, okay, that's great.
Yeah, there's a lot of things, this stream of things, but I didn't want to interrupt you. You are kind of
No,
on the floor.
you're fabulous. I love this. That's fantastic. Yeah, we're talking about box breathing. We're talking about Zen, Ikigai. Yes, yeah. Ikigai is basically what I'm talking about in a way. It's sort of this sort of holistic, it's the Jedi version of taking all of the areas of your life and bringing them into one. Beautiful. That's fantastic. Yeah, absolutely. No. Please. I've got a lot to talk about, but I want to make sure that if anybody wants to offer other contemplation rituals, that there's space for that now. I'll give it about 30 seconds or so before I move on. Or if you have any questions about daily contemplation and reflection before we move to the next one. Oh, yes. Yeah, life coaching, DJing, all of those things, 100%. Meal planning, that's a great way to be contemplative and reflective, because if you're intentional about what you're eating every day and your nutrition, that brings you more in line with your physical body. And if you're more in line with your physical body, just like everybody who has an exercise discipline, that can help bring you in line, for, yes, 100%. Yeah. Often missing your morning practice. Yeah, I understand. I think, if you can find literally a 2-minute pause, doing a 2-minute pause or a 2-minute like preparatory, just like silence every day, I think all of us could find 2 minutes every single day. The consistency builds up over time. You give it 10, 30, 60, 90 days of 2 minutes, and suddenly going for longer than that is acceptable. Yeah, stillness, even at your work desk or in your mind, can be so helpful. Yeah, 100%. Keep stacking the days. Amen. Yes, thank you, Aether. Okay. Sacred connection practice. So, how present are you outside of meditation? So, we talked about contemplation, which is sort of a formal meditative practice. But how present are you outside of your meditation? This pathway is about awareness and the everyday practice of living, the 5 senses and you. Think about this. I'm not going to open the chat for this, but you can type it in there if you want. If you had to identify a 6th sense, please nobody reference the movie, what would it be? Like, what could another sense be outside of our physical sense? That's going to come up in just a minute. Okay, so here's our toolkit for sacred connection practice. A 5 senses walk. Okay, you're going to love this. If you don't already do this, this is called land snorkeling. So land snorkeling is a fabulous tool. Basically, I'm assuming some people in here have been snorkeling or scuba diving before. But if you haven't, you've probably seen videos of it. You go into water, you're looking around, you see all kinds of really fun stuff. And when we're snorkeling or we are scuba diving, we're so interested in every little thing that we see. Something that moves. Is it dangerous? Is it cool? Is it colorful? Oh my gosh, look at that rock down there. That's such a weirdly shaped rock. How many of us do this on our normal walks on land? I would assume not everybody does. But when I learned this tool, it really changed the way I took my nature walks, my time in nature. Because I started being like, well, that dumpster's really cool. And of course, it's just a dumpster. But it's in our mind, it's our perception of what that dumpster is. If that dumpster were underwater, we'd all be like, that's a really cool dumpster under the water. But just because it's on land, that makes it mundane? No. So a 5 senses walk is our way of connecting with our different senses. Of course, I've been talking about visual sense, but also how you feel. What does that tree feel like? What is the, if I move my hand over this water, what does that feel like? Taste is questionable. Please don't eat anything you find in nature unless you are 100% certain, not 99%, 100% certain you can taste it. I'm hearing Sasha's voice like in the back of my head saying,
One is a
don't
poison and one is a snack.
exactly. Thank you. Thank you. Don't eat things, but all of your senses, what do you hear? Hearing is a great one. Listening for bird calls. I've often considered that birding is a way to connect with the sacred. So if you are, bird watching, looking, the act of just searching, really being intentional with what you're looking for, that's powerful. A body scan. A body scan we've already done today in a way. He did it with tension, but in Sadhguru's meditation, going through each of your body areas, muscles, tensing and releasing them, or just bringing your awareness to it. That brings you into your sensory interoception. And interoception is like what you feel inside of you. This next one, quietude when the outside world is noisy. There's a show called Scrubs. I don't know if anybody knows it, but in it, the main character, JD, is having issues when somebody codes. So he's a doctor. He's a new doctor. And coding is, of course, when somebody is like circling the drain and they've got to take action right then and there to save their lives. He gets totally out of his head when something happens in a code and he does not know what to do. And he asks his friend Elliot what she does because she's so good at coding. And she says, I imagine that time stops and that I can just make one decision after another. Everything is very slow. And this sort of relates to the idea that time is perceived. We have control over how fast time goes in our perception. So if you feel totally out of your body and you're like, this way, that way, bring yourself back to a time stop. Everything just freezes. And then you just make the next decision and the next decision and the next decision. Sensory grounding. There's a lot of great research on this, but if you go outside and you put your bare feet on the ground in some dirt, with care, please, connecting with the earth really helps your touch sense. There's something that happens with the magnetic fields and all of that sort of aligns. I don't truly understand the science behind it, but it's very powerful. So if you feel like you're out of sorts and you want to feel like you're in the ground and you're in the earth, literally put your feet on the earth and see what happens after 15 minutes of that. Meditation with an object. Of course, we've talked about this. If you want to just address a flame, a breath, a word, a mantra, any of those is really powerful. This is designed to help us get into our bodies in everyday life. Of course, I didn't put this in here, but of course, mindful eating is really important as well. So there's an exercise where you take like a raisin or a grape and you just like taste it for 30 to 60 seconds. And some people literally feel full and sated after having that experience, because feeling like you're nourished is as much a state of mind as it is anything else. Did somebody say something? No? Okay. All right. So hectic adaptations for busy Jedi, of course. A brief sensory walk. If you only have 5 minutes, you can do it in 5 minutes. A quick body scan. The 20-20-20 rule for screens. If you're looking at your screens all day and you're scrolling around, I highly recommend doing this. Every 20 minutes or so, take your eyes and leave the screen. Look at least 20 feet out in front of you for 20 seconds and just be present with that. And once you've done that for 20 seconds, you can bring it back. The 20-20-20 rule is really important to keep your mind from just melting into the screen in front of you. So I want to know from the community, if you would like to put anything in here, what mindless activities in your life could become mindful ones. Anybody have any thoughts on that? Oh, I see. Time is relative. Hug a tree. 100%. We definitely should be hugging trees. Trees are insanely intelligent, and actually touching a tree, touching the trunk, is actually another way to ground. That's very good. Thank you for that.
So I know one people should be working on
Tell me.
driving. They need to be more
Yes.
mindful driving.
Yes, 100%. In fact, I know that people say that you shouldn't like meditate while you're driving because that would be insane. But meditative driving means bringing your awareness to all of the decisions that you're making while you're on the road. Allie, do you want to say a minute or so on that as our resident driving expert?
So I will say that when people they have a person in the car that is, monitoring them, they
Mhm.
are more attentive to what they're doing, unless they're in the middle of a road test and then they just get stuck in their head.
Mm.
A lot of people get stuck in their head, and it's probably about like 40% of the people that their first time they go through stuck in their head.
Mhm.
But once you get out and you have someone in the car with you, you just think, oh, I have the freedom, and you get complacent. So
Mhm.
you need to be more focused on this is the activity that I need to work on and
Yeah.
drive properly, because you have to take into account everything everybody's doing. I tell my students all the time, do not trust the other drivers around you. You don't
Mhm.
know what's going on in their car. I know he's not in here, but I would pick on Justin just a little bit. He has told us that if there's a spider in that car, he's gonna scramble all over and squirm. So, it just is what it is. We don't know what's going on in that car at that
Yeah.
moment. So you need to be fully
Yeah.
engaged with
Absolutely. Yep.
driving.
And that's something that pretty much every busy Jedi can do if you drive. I know I don't want to say that everybody drives, but if you do, we can all be working on that sort of thing. And Justin wrote earlier in here, gardening and working with the earth. That is a brilliant one. And in fact, if you live in an apartment and you have like a little balcony, you can raise some herbs or small plants on your porch or balcony. I know they have like little planters that you can put over like a rail or something. That is a fantastic way to just, for a few minutes. Yeah, succulents outside. That's just a wonderful way to get involved. Yeah, 100%.
But
Thank you.
back to the driving, if I may, I'll make it really quick.
Yeah,
A
go for
lot
it.
of people actually lose the whole situational awareness and constant
Mm.
defensive driving, which means
Mhm.
just you can't trust on it. You can't ever trust anybody.
Yeah.
Or like when somebody does something stupid and we're like, what the bleep? It's like, we get attached, so you have to like learn to detach and not really care about the actions of other people,
Mhm.
and manage that so you're not unnecessarily suffering because somebody's being a dingus on the road.
100%. Thank you for
Yeah.
sharing.
Yeah.
So, community practice. This one can be really quick because we're literally already doing it. But I want you to be thinking about this. We have to be spiritual with each other, not just as individuals. There is no spirituality only within one human body. And that's because there is a false dichotomy between what I say is my individual self and what is the collective self. In fact, there is only the collective self, and our bodies are simply an expression of that. So thinking that we can do things on our own, we can do anything on our own, is a lie. And back to the tree thing, what I was going to address earlier is that, did you know that half of your respiratory system is in the tree in front of you? Oh, sorry, there's a tree in front of me. But if there was a tree in front of you, it would be there. Because without the tree system, there is no breath, which is an insane thing to think about. So everything requires us to be interdependent, not dependent, but interdependent. So our community practice, be thinking about this. What can Jedi be providing to our community from our community? Support groups for addiction recovery, accountability for exercise. I know Master Ross has done that in the Discord. We have our biannual meetings for enrichment like this one. And of course, what can Jedi provide to the wider world? The Chicago Jedi have a fabulous service arm And we give information, education free of charge. We guide people in spiritual development. We could have more group meditations, more group rituals. All of these things are wonderful ways to engage with the act of being a Jedi. And of course, I wanted to bring up just a little bit about how our group practice is an integral part, because there are dangers to being lone wolves. Think about the Jedi you know that have rage quitted from communities and just gone off and done their own thing. There are all sorts of potential issues with that. You've got sophism, which is the idea that you are like the only thing that matters, God complexes, misguided deeds, where you think you're doing good, but you have no accountability, so you don't really realize that your impact is negative. Being on your own as a Jedi is, you're walking a very tight-ropey kind of thing. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, because everybody that's participating in this wants to do community practice. Of course, we have hectic adaptations. Maybe you need short daily online check-ins in the Discord. You can watch short videos for practice. I know we have these, because I know Sage Knight Sophia has done these, at least, and other people have too. We have our Discord for community support. You can do an act of kindness for somebody. And one of my favorites is active listening. In your day, you absolutely have time to have conversations with people, because you're already having conversations with people. What if you actually heard what they were saying and you were really listening to what they said? Those sorts of things are community practice in their own way. It's just interpersonal rather than like in a group. So I want you to be thinking about, what can we do to support busy community members? What are some challenges we're poised to address in the coming year as a community? I want you to be thinking of that as we move into the fourth category, orienteering. Okay, this is my favorite. And I'm so glad that Ali was doing sextant work right before this, because that is literally a mindful orienteering practice. So what we're doing here is we're studying the Jedi compass, aligning actions with the compass, and being mindful about this. So here are some ways that you can do orienteering. When planning your day, when you do your journaling at the beginning of the day and you're planning out how you're going to spend your day, preview possible ways that you could interact with the Jedi compass. During your examen at the end of the day, review the day to see what compass elements you met and which need work. And of course, orienteering practice, which is something that I'm developing. This is where you choose an element of the Jedi compass and you spend the whole day mindfully working on that one singular element and focus. And luckily, we already have a beautiful introduction to the Jedi Sextant. If you came in after that, I'm sure that Ali will always be willing, Master Seta will always be willing to talk about that with you. I'm pretty sure there's a section for it on the Discord, and hopefully the video will be posted as well. Hectic adaptations for busy Jedi, the 5-minute orienteering game. You pick an element of the compass where you have trouble, set a timer for 5 minutes, and research and plan how you could incorporate it into your busy life. Just by doing the research and planning, you're going to be more than halfway to applying that orienteering idea. The decision gap. This one was given to me by Pema Chodron, who is a Buddhist nun. But I've kind of made it Jedi flavored. So what you're going to do is, whenever you're faced with a decision, catch yourself. I have to make a decision. Wait for a moment. Let there be a mindful pause. Do your 2-minute gap. And in the middle of that, check against the compass. If I'm going to engage in this behavior, is this really in line with what being a Jedi is about, or is it not? Fortitude builder. This is meeting a challenge with joy. You're going to get challenges in your life. It's all about how you look at it. Do you want this challenge to be a negative thing for you, or do you want it to be a positive thing? That's up to you. And of course, a bias check. Ask yourself if you're being objective. So think about the areas of the Jedi compass that give you the most trouble. Brainstorm how you might do an orienteering session with the element that you choose. And the last area is sacred study. This is about direct connection to the Force via literature and nonfiction. not only reading, but deep integration of the material. And I kind of got this idea from the Christian concept of Lectio Divina, but there are examples in every religion. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick an inspiring text from a spiritual master you respect or want to get to know. Read a passage from them in the context. Don't just take it as a sentence out of context. Spend time in meditation on the subject. And you can do this also with literature. Like I wrote in Clone Wars, when Ahsoka is accused of treason, she is proven innocent, but leaves the order anyway and decides not to come back. What can you learn from that choice? That's a great way to spend 5-10 minutes in meditation. What would you have done in her situation? Would you have left? Would you not have left? Who knows? And of course, Letters from Love, which is from Elizabeth Gilbert. You can look up how this works, but in essence, Letters from Love is an activity where you write a letter to yourself as if you're writing from the Force's perspective, from the ultimate, from the everything. So an example might be, dear Connor, dear Bhalu, I know that you've been struggling with this or that, but I want you to know that things are going to be okay. And I want you to know that you need to learn this. You need to know this. And you're trying to write a letter to yourself from the perspective of the eternal, and just be open. Be open to what comes to you out of this. This was given to me by Elizabeth Gilbert, who she's a writer. She wrote Eat, Pray, Love. That's how you know her. Hectic adaptations, a micro study session, of course. So basically, these are the things that we just talked about, but really short. Pick a sentence, inspires you, meditate on it. Release a habit. Pick a habit that you do every day when you find out and you're like, I do not want to do this anymore. I'm so tired of drinking out of plastic water bottles. I know how to break this habit. I'm going to stop by the store and get a reusable water bottle that I can fill. Then I'm going to provide less waste. That's a habit release. Pose a question. Ask a big question in your life and just sit with it for a minute. Yeah? So we're going to skip this community practice just so we can get through the rest of this real quick. And okay, so question and answers. So what we're going to do now is we have a few minutes here. We've gone through 5 pathways. And the information was really dumped on you here. But I want to know if you have any questions about the material so far. Anybody have any questions? You can feel free to unmute yourself and talk into the mic or write in the chat. Don't worry, I have prompting questions if nobody has anything in particular. But I'll give it 30 seconds. You see what we've already written. Proctoring an exam is a good time for mindful meditation. That's really true. Yeah, if you have the chance to really, you can also pass on your good vibes to the students. Do well. Here are the answers by psychic osmosis. That's so real. Everything is a walkable distance. That's so aspirational. Box breathing just throughout the day. Oh, alternate nostril breathing, Relia. Absolutely. Really important. Okay, we got... okay. Oh, brilliant. Yes, Justin asks, how can we differentiate the voices of the ego versus the voices of the fourth? The fourth. So we can do this because we choose to. Now, yeah, when we're going throughout our day and we're going, okay, I'm going to write a letter to love from myself and it's going to be from the Force, but it's actually going to be from my ego. You're going to know when you do this exercise that it's not the ultimate because it's going to be biased by you. You're going to be giving yourself suggestions and things that you need to work on that are really not advice. So what I mean by that is, yes, throughout the day when you're looking for guidance from the Force, you really have to think questions rather than answers. That's really the best practice I can give you. If something comes to you and it sounds like advice, like someone's giving you a solution, then you know that that's coming from a biased place. But if what comes to you is something that's expansive and open, if it's questioning, if it's just like, oh, this makes my perspective bigger, then you know that it's actually from the Force, or it's from love, or it's from your view of God. You can do letters from love with any of those subjects. It doesn't have to be from the Force necessarily. So just to reiterate, because this is very important, you're absolutely right to ask this question. Things that make it smaller, things that provide concreteness, things that provide answers, are things that are biased by the ego. Things that expand, that invite questions, that invite perspectives to move in a direction they haven't been before, those are things that come from something bigger than you. That's a very good question. Earlier when we were doing the Sadhguru meditation, you're welcome.
Excuse me. Red Robin has a question.
It's not a question. What you just said, I need it written down somewhere. That's not going to stick in my brain. You know what you just said about recognizing the ego, whether something's a good answer or not. Can you make sure that's written down somewhere? Because
I'm writing it in my notes right now to make sure that I get it to you, and also I'll put it in the Discord as well. So I will make sure.
And Robin, just so you know, these sessions, these seminars are going to be available on the IGF website for recast after the event is over, so you can always review these things.
Yes, 100%. I will make sure that you get that, Red Robin, and of course, anybody that wants to view this again, I highly encourage it. And also in the Discord, I'm going to talk about this in just a moment, but in the 100 days thread that I make in general, I will post all of these slides. So you will have the opportunity in the Discord to review all of this information and ask questions about it there as well. Oh, great question. I do not have the answer to that. Does somebody who's an admin know how people can get into the Discord? Maybe we can post an invite link in the chat.
So as far as the Discord for IGF, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll send.
Sorry,
I'll
there was
send you direct, Justin.
Isn't there a link right on the website?
Maybe there is.
Allie?
I'm gonna send one direct.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So here we go. Let's just finish this up because I want to make sure that I'm done on time. We're responding to lay life here. So remember, the whole point of this is that we live with context. We live in the context of our jobs. We live in the context of our stresses. We live in the context of our anxieties. We have this current life. What we're doing now is bringing the lessons from the monastic into the lay. So we're reflecting on the mission. If you don't know what your mission is yet, that's okay. Take some time to think about your long-term goals. Do the visualization exercise in these slides that asks you to visualize your perfect life already accomplished. And it's good for everybody. What does that look like? Once you have that mission, you're going to want to put it into about a sentence or so. Once you have it in a sentence or two, that is when you can start organizing your pathways of behavior through the 5 areas we've discussed today. You're going to do this via developing the body, the mind, and the spiritual aspects of being, integrating into your busy life. So it's not that you're doing these things on top of the busyness. It's that you're doing them as part of it. Your busyness becomes mindful because it's what you do. And all of those actions create a more unified version of you. And that brings you more into alignment with what is already unified, which is the universe, etc. One naturally leads to another once the mission is identified, and everything filters through the lens of these core values. And you can't force spirituality. This is why when you sit and you just do a 2-minute meditation, it doesn't change anything. It has to come from purpose and meaning. And I also should have written consistency. So once you have purpose and you have your meaning, you have your mission statement, and you do these things again and again and again, you cultivate a spirituality. Otherwise, you'll always find your way back to where you began, and not in the beginner's mind way. So the intended outcomes of this work are that you have an actionable toolkit to apply spiritual practices for your sensory and spiritual beings. You reduce the overwhelm and feeling of inadequacy that comes from hanging on by a thread. And this hopefully leads to the proper integration that will result in joy, fulfillment of your mission, and community growth. So, the 100 Days Challenge. This is where the presentation basically ends here. But don't stop recording yet, because I want this to be part of here. The 100 Days Challenge. Now that we've identified the way to integrate spirituality into your 5 senses and behaviors through the pathways, let's apply one of these pathways to make it happen, which is the community practice, by the way. Your mission as a Jedi hopefully includes the community in some way, which means you'll be looking for community practices in our community, even if you participate in other religions or spiritualities. And here's the offer. Beginning January 1st, I am going to offer 100 days of check-ins. I will check into the Discord for 100 days on my progress in the pathways. And you can do it too. And I'd love for as many people who want to join me in cultivating and talking about building a spiritual life as Jedi. We can do this together, because I guarantee you that checking in one sentence every single day saying, I met my goals, I didn't meet my goals, this was the pathway I focused on today, I was able to get all 5 pathways in today, which by the way is insane. Don't do that. Just focus on one at a time. Just checking in is enough to keep you on track and to start orienting you. And so what I'm going to do is in the Discord, under general, I'm going to, in the general threads category, I'm going to make a 100 days challenge thread. And in it, like I said, I'll place all of these slides, and I will be around at least once per day to specifically talk about these things. If you have questions about the pathways, if you have questions about your mission or your purpose, if you just want to say, hey, I got in a 1-minute meditation today, I want you, that is a success. Every single one of us, if all of us that are in this chat right now did 1 minute of meditation in a day, we would be moving ourselves closer to a fully integrated spirituality. So that's my offer to you. And hopefully I'm not doing it alone. I will do it alone if I have to. But this is the challenge I'm offering to all of you. So thank you very much. I appreciate that you all came to this presentation. It was a real joy. I hope to see many of you sign up for the 100 Days Challenge. I'm not going to make it like a formal sign-up thing, because I think it's something that you should just come in and drop out of as you need to. But if you make it all 100 days, that would be really awesome. I don't have a particular prize for you, but that would be incredible. And I know I will make it 100 days. Let's see. Copies of the slides we made available. I already talked about that. And credits, of course. I just want to make sure that in the recording, the people that prepared the visuals for today were Slides Carnival for the presentation template, and Pexels and Pixabay for the photos. All of these were licensed correctly. Also, thanks to the account mystical.af on Instagram for all of the memes. The memes will be left in the slideshow that I post, so you can always see them, because I think they bring a little joy. And of course, thanks to Diamond and the Council for their trust in my work. With gratitude to everybody. So that's what I have for you today. Thanks so much. We can go ahead and stop that recording.